you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. This is the Spit Sports Show. Spit's Picks Week 3. We are coming off of what I think is the best 2-3 gambling weekend you could possibly have. And I understand that sounds weird, but considering the bets that we made and the results that came of it, like the process was incredibly solid. This very, very easily could have been a 4-1 weekend. Cards didn't go down that way. We had the Jags plus 3.5 versus Cincinnati. They just gave that game away thanks to that 4th and 5, which turned into the Bengals covering by half a point and two just back-breaking Trevor Lawrence interceptions. The Jags were winning handily the entire time and just found a way to Jags the game away. That sucked. And then Denver -2 against the Colts. Like, we won that bet. It was a stupid penalty that took away the game-losing field goal. The guy missed it, but a Denver guy tried to jump over the pile, moved him forward 15 yards. Guy made no mistake on the second one. And even just throughout the game, Denver taking stupid penalties was the only reason that we lost that bet. I think I was on the right side of it. Atlanta, we gave you that one plus 5.5. They won outright. Tampa Bay, we gave you plus 2.5. They also won outright. And then the Raiders was just a bad bet. That's why I said, 4-1 at best. Sometimes, just doesn't work out the way you foresee it. I thought Geno Smith was going to play a bit better than the worst game of his entire life. Shoot me. But I guess that's just how the money rolls sometimes. But we move on because this is a very, very cool slate of games that we have coming up for week 3. Ravens-Lions on Monday Night Football. I cannot wait for that game. Rams-Philly is going to be awesome. And that is where we are going to start. The Rams are getting 3.5 points versus Philadelphia in Philly. Now, 3.5 is always a number that I really like betting because you get a field goal plus a hook. So if you lose by a field goal, you still win the bet outright instead of pushing. And if there was any team that I would bet confidently against the Eagles at this point in the season, it's the Rams. Because in that playoff game that they played against each other last season, the Rams very easily could have stolen that game away from Philadelphia when Stafford hit Puka Nacua down the sideline for that potential game-winning touchdown. I thought that they were going to beat the Eagles. They really, don't have the fear of the defending Super Bowl champions that I think a typical team would. And the Rams are coming off of a game where they played just lights out on offense. And I think Stafford can actually play better than what he did last week. Whereas Philly, yes, they started off 2-0, but I'm seeing some problems with their passing game, which I understand was a big issue last year, and they ended up winning the whole Super Bowl. But the lack of explosive plays has been concerning, and I still don't fully trust their run defense. Kansas City has one of the worst rushing offenses in the NFL. I understand that they looked good in that scenario, but against Dallas, who also does not have a good rushing offense, Dallas carved them up on the ground. I understand they didn't have Jalen Carter, but even Jalen Carter right now is being called out by his coaches for not being in good enough shape. So I think Kyron Williams is going to be able to establish a run game for this. I think the Rams pass rush is one of the most underrated units in the entire NFL. I think they'll be able to get after Philly's front 5 with only 4, which is something that Philly I don't think is that used to. I'm not going to spend too much longer on this because I've spent enough time, but the Rams plus 3.5 at Philly, I really, really like. This might be my favorite bet of the entire weekend. It's definitely up there. The Jets are getting 6.5 points against Tampa Bay. Now, listen, I think Tampa Bay is awesome. I think they are legitimate NFC contenders this year. I think losing Kalijah Kancey is obviously a big-time loss for them, but they'll be getting Tristan Wirfs back. They'll be hopefully getting Chris Godwin back pretty soon. The Bucs are legit, but 6.5 points against a Jets team who is coming off of getting just mollywopped by Buffalo on Sunday. I love betting teams who get embarrassed the week before because typically during that week of practice and meetings, there is a heightened sense of urgency within that building. And especially with a head coach like Aaron Glenn at the helm there, I think he is going to be relentlessly pursuing excellence during these intramural practices. And I think it is going to do the Jets really good to get punched in the mouth and then hopefully come back and put on a good showing against the Buccaneers. Also, out of conference game for the Buccaneers, how up will they be able to get for this game after just beating a divisional opponent on the road the week before, and then Houston's obviously a pretty good team. Will they take their foot off the gas a little bit? 6.5 is a lot of points for a Jets team that I still think is pretty good. I know Fields will not be playing. I don't care. This comes down to mostly their defense for me, and if they can put up somewhere around that 24-point mark, I love the Jets getting 6.5 against Tampa Bay. Pittsburgh getting a 1.5 versus the New England Patriots. Sometimes this is just as simple as I think Pittsburgh's a good team, and I don't think the Patriots are. I understand that their line is going to be inflated this week by beating the Dolphins, which is why I'm betting this probably as hard as I am. I think the Steelers are going to be just fine. I think they lost the game to Seattle because of two very, very silly mistakes by two very, very young kids. I don't see that happening week to week. Mike Tomlin is too good of a coach, and he's too good at fundamental football specifically. I think they'll be cleaner this week. I still don't know if Drake May is the guy for New England. My intuition says he isn't, but it's possible. In my opinion, I think this is where the Steelers' defense finally gets right. I don't believe in New England's run game or offensive line. I think Rodgers will be back for a bit of revenge after he threw I know he pretty much entirely blamed it on Calvin Austin for the interception, but he did throw a game-changing interception in the red zone. I think Pittsburgh's a better team than New England by quite a bit, and New England's line is inflated at this point. I love Pittsburgh getting a 1.5. New Orleans. I am betting the New Orleans Saints. I cannot believe this, but it's just too many points at plus 7.5 against Seattle. Seattle isn't good enough to be 7.5-point favorites versus anybody. Maybe the Dolphins. Maybe. But the Saints have proven so far that they're bad, but they don't know that they're bad. And what I mean by that is they played the Cardinals as frisky as you can play them. They took the 49ers down to the wire. Mac Jones had to make a bunch of big throws to win that game. So if you're on the Saints right now, yes, as national media pundits, we know that their roster sucks. But if you're on that team right now, you have some belief that you can go into Seattle and make an upset happen. And they're not even laying a full touchdown. They're laying a touchdown and a half. That is just too many points. I have to take the Saints here. They don't know how bad they are, and they're going to play like it. I love betting the Saints here. And the last pick, Chicago, getting a point against the Dallas Cowboys. This is a must-win game for the Chicago Bears. A lot of people had them making the playoffs before the season started. I was not one of them. However, I understood the logic, and if they start off 0-3 with a heartbreaking loss to the Vikings that they should have won, and then getting destroyed by the Lions, and then losing to Dallas in your home building, that is just going to be too much for the Bears to overcome. I think there is going to be a heightened point of emphasis this week because of all of the stuff that's going on around the Bears right now. The Bears have also underratedly been running the ball pretty well. I think Swift has played great in his first two games. Dallas's run defense, as much as Jerry Jones was talking about how improved it was going to be before the season, isn't really all that good. I think the Bears will be able to move the ball here. It's a question of how many stops will they be able to get. It doesn't look like Jalen Johnson is going to be able to go. That's a big, big loss for them. Don't get me wrong. But excuse me. But underdogs at home against a Dallas team that I think is a complete Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, or bust kind of roster. I like it a lot. I think this is a must-win week for Chicago, and I think they're going to treat it as such. Again, I love betting teams that got destroyed the week before because heightened sense of urgency, and you want to get that bad taste out of your mouth. I will be betting Chicago +1 versus Dallas. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, I want to know, what are your favorite picks for this weekend? It could be money line, spread, whatever you guys prefer. Drop it in the comments below. I'm small enough as to where I can read all comments. Love doing it, so drop something down there. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed what you heard. Well, please subscribe if you really enjoyed it. The Spit Sports Show just hit over 400 subscribers. Big things happening on this channel. And as always, I will see you all in the next one. Peace out. I love you guys.